Oh, friend!
Hello and welcome to Football Friends. This is something a little bit different from what you'll normally see on this channel, but essentially what Football Friends is going to be, it's just going to be complete unscripted nonsense about one of three football teams, or just the general football news that's going on around the world at the moment. So a little bit about what the teams will be. There are three teams in particular, which are the teams that I take the most interest in. Of course, number one being the England national football team. There's a whole video I made about them that I'm going to link on the card above. I think it's worth your time because that is personally my favourite video I've ever made. The second team being Preston North End, because that is my hometown and it's my home team, the one that I do support and taken a lot of interest in recently. But then my Premier League team would be Manchester United, and of course there's going to be a lot of people that will instantly think, oh, for fuck's sake, he's a Man United fan, but you know, let's just slow down for a minute. I understand the club isn't where it used to be 10 years ago, you know, but you know, you still support the club that you like at the end of the day. If they go crap, they go crap, and you just gotta wait for them to get good again. That's as simple as it is, really. And in this episode of Football Friends, I'm going to be focusing on United in particular, and one of their players, and that being Fred. Because in recent days, I think Fred has been a bit more of a shining star. You know, in the past, Fred's been a bit more of a controversial player. He's not exactly been seen as fit for Manchester United because he doesn't have that ability. But over the last few days, you know, during the Carrick days and in the now ongoing Ralph Rangnick days, I do think that Fred is beginning to show quite a bit of his potential and that he actually does belong on this Manchester United squad. Because let's just be honest, you're not going to be able to show your full potential in just a couple of games. I mean, he's been playing quite a while now for United, I understand that much, but the drive for Fred just hasn't really been there. It's more or less just been, we'll play Fred because we don't have any better options. And I don't really think that's hit home, and they haven't exactly used Fred to his full potential outside of matches. You know, on the training field, they don't exactly encourage him to do what he does these days. Something that really interests me about Fred is his recent performance against Arsenal, as well as the most recent Premier League showing. Manchester United won 1-0 over Crystal Palace, because Fred was the one that scored the winning goal of all people, and it was a really nice goal. Now, my respect for Fred doesn't come just from his goal. You know, there's a million players in the world that can score a goal. I can score goals. Anyone can score goals if you have a good ability or not. But the reason the respect is coming through is because of how confident he's been on this pitch and how coordinated he's been. Because when you look back at Fred from, let's say, a few matches ago, or even longer term than that, he hasn't exactly been the strongest component to the team. As a matter of fact, he seemed quite hesitant to actually do his job. I mean, you have players on the pitch such as Scott McTominay who are very, very similar, and I still don't think they're quite up to speed. But then, when there's other players on the pitch such as Wan-Bissaka and Pogba in some instances that seem to do their job for them, I can see why they'd feel a little bit undervalued. But in that Crystal Palace game, with Pogba still being off and then Bissaka being nowhere to be seen, I think that was Fred's first real opportunity to maybe try something out and try and go for the goal himself. And I do think it's something that paid off, because by the end of that game there were a lot of people giving Fred some praise, myself included. Because in all honesty, when Fred scored that goal and his performance throughout the whole game, how in control he felt when he had the ball, I really do think that he's on his path to redemption. Because, you know, a lot of people would throw some slander at Fred saying that you're not worthy, but nowadays, I should say, in the past week, I've seen a lot of praise towards the young lad, and I really do think he's on his way to become a Manchester United superstar. You know, give him a year or two and he'll probably be one of the most valuable assets on the pitch, one of the most valuable assets in the Premier League. You know, compare Fred to, let's say, Harry Kane. Now, of course, these two play in completely different, you know, places. They don't have the same role on the pitch. But here's the thing, Fred is marketed at 22 million. Harry Kane is marketed at 120 million. Now that might just be because of the positions, but hear me out. Fred has had 12 games, Harry Kane has had 13. Harry Kane has scored 1 goal, Fred has scored 2. Harry Kane has had 1 assist, and Fred has had 2. Now, I really don't think that we have been seeing the very best of Harry Kane in recent history because, at the end of the day, Harry Kane has been a bit upset regarding his current position with Tottenham, that he wanted to leave under, the rule of the old manager, but now they've got Conte in, so he's feeling a little bit more motivated to play for Tottenham again. He wanted to go to City, but that didn't happen. But, moving on from that whole discussion, that's a discussion for another day. I do think that Fred, from those stats alone, and I know it's not all about stats, it's about how you're doing on that pitch as well, and how much of a personality you are. I think Fred he's miles better than Harry Kane in terms of a personality as well. Fred's just a young superstar, to put it quite simple, and I really do think the lad's got a lot of potential in him still. And with Rangnick now coaching and being the head manager, or I should say the manager head coach, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, they can bring out of Fred, because let's be honest, we saw it on that game against Crystal Palace. He was always in form. He took an opportunity whenever he saw one, and it wasn't like the opportunities we saw him take against Chelsea. Like when he tried that embarrassing chip, I'm pretty sure it was the Chelsea game. If it's not, I apologise. But in one of those most recent games, he tried a chip in, and it was the worst chipping I've seen in a very, very long time. And that is really what made me look at Fred and think, is this guy really cut out for the job? Like, why has he tried that? But then he comes out with a super strike like that, and I'm thinking to myself, is this the same Fred that we saw 5 games ago? It's not. It's definitely not. And when you've also got McTominay on the pitch, who the game before that, he did actually quite well. The Crystal Palace game, he wasn't too clever in, so Fred sort of took that position from him, I think. But if those two can properly be trained up to bounce back off of one another, to head forward into the strikers, I do think that this could be one of Manchester United's strongest assets within midfield in a long, long time. McTominay, I don't see that much potential in personally. I do think he's more of one of the more laid-back players, similar to what Harry Maguire is for the defenders. But you never know. We give it time. Like as Rangnick said, you can't get to this standard within like a week or two. You need to give it time. You need to let the players flourish. You need to understand the players. You need to understand the game. You need to be in control of the ball. You need to control the game. And that's all it is, really. That's all football is. Manchester United's goalkeeper and David De Gea is, well, he has some good showings, but then there are also occasions where you'd rather him not be in the net. But the other options, I do think De Gea is still the strongest goalkeeper Man United has, so that's covered. And then when it comes to defenders, they'll obviously play Harry Maguire as the captain, who is not worth 80 million, I'm sorry. You'll have your Luke Shaw. What I'm trying to say is, with the form, you keep Fred on that, and you keep training him to bounce off of all those other midfielders to pass into the forward, and then eventually the striker, Cristiano Ronaldo. We could see a very, very strong suit for Manchester United here, and I do think Fred has finally found his spot in the team. And if he can continue this sort of performance, I do think that Fred will very quickly become one of the best players for Manchester United and one of the most favoured players in the Premier League. So we'll have to see how the match against Norwich goes on Saturday, not Sunday. But in the meantime, why not check out some of my other content? Check out that Euro 2020 video. Make sure to look in the description as well for any affiliate links in the description regarding some things. Obviously, they're not related to football, but you might take some interest in them. You never know. So yeah, just check out other things while you're here. And I will be back for some more Football Friends talk in the near future. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.
He's not my fucking friend.
All right.